Well, a couple of things. Thanks for asking the question, Greta. I will say without question, Kevin McCarthy did a good job trying to get someone who said they did not want to negotiate. The problem is it fell short for me. And here's the primary reason why. Between now and the end of President Biden's term, he has zero limits on spending. Last fiscal year, he overspent by $1.2 trillion. This fiscal year, projection is $2 trillion of overspending, or 40% more than we bring in. Next year, no limit on the credit card. He has until January 2025 to spend as much as he wants to spend. And even the IRS funding that's been a target in the negotiations, only $1.4 billion out of $82 billion has been frozen and delaying the implementation of those disastrous policies for the American people for one more year. We need to eliminate those policies.
All right, some of those policies that the president will pay for in the next 2 years, are those programs or policies that were passed by the U.S. Senate and, in fact, programs of President Donald Trump?
Well, certainly, I'm sure that the continuation of spending is the problem. When you look at the fact that this president has had zero, and I mean zero, spending discipline whatsoever, that is problematic. But let's start back at the beginning of this president's administration. The first bill he passed was a $1.9 trillion. Only Democrats voted for that legislation. 1% of that COVID relief package was for COVID vaccines, less than 10% for COVID-related health. In other words, $1.7 trillion of new spending targeting progressive priorities from a policy perspective. The next big bill, $1.2 trillion for infrastructure. The only problem? It didn't take care of ordinary infrastructure for the next 5 years. Third big bill, the Inflation Reduction Act. That was actually the Inflation Increasing Act that increased inflation, could hire up to 87,000 new IRS agents. And in addition to that, they're going to target working class people making less than $200,000 with new investigations to find millionaires and billionaires that are tax cheats. It's just fundamentally broken the way that President Biden has used his position to increase power in Washington, which is bad news for the rest of America.
All right. Well, what happened to the promise Republicans made, and I guess specifically I think was made in the House by the Speaker, is that the IRS, that there'd be the end of the IRS agents. Well, apparently they aren't, and apparently there's voting even within your own party on this bill, which doesn't end that the 87,000 IRS agents.
Well, Greta, the only good news, a sliver of good news, is that what Kevin achieved was monumental in that he froze the hiring for 1 year. The problem is year 2 through 9, where you see most of the hiring will happen. If we can have more success at the ballot box, we can eliminate these positions permanently. But that means we have to win elections. And that's why I'm running for president, because I want to make sure America continues to do for others what she has done for me. And protecting America means protecting American taxpayers. You can learn more about the campaign by going to votetimscott.com.
All right, there's a lot of controversy about whether we should be spending more money in Ukraine to help or not. Where do you stand on that? What would you do if you're president today about Ukraine? Support them more or less?
Well, Greta, the problem we have today is that our current president can't chew gum and walk at the same time. And what I mean by that is you look at the southern border. It is unsafe, wide open, and it's insecure. At the same time, we have the president not articulating to the American people what is America's national vital interest in Ukraine. The answer is simply America's vital national interest in Ukraine is decimating, degrading, and trying to destroy the Russian military. That makes us safer on the home front, but it also makes our allies, NATO countries contiguous with Ukraine, safer as well. That is our primary responsibility, is to make sure that we keep America safe. We can do that without boots on the ground. That is a very big win for the American people and, frankly, for our national security priorities. Second thing I'd say is on continue to support Ukraine. We have just authorized F-16s. We have tanks that are supposedly going over there. The problem is we don't have the industrial base to produce the weapons we have committed. We need an industrial revolution. The new era of exponential innovation needs to start with my administration.
All right, let me turn now to the campaign. Senator, you have agreed this Monday to go on The View. And for the viewers who probably don't remember, one of the women of The View, Joy Behar, had to say the following about your 2024 announcement. Here it is.
He's like Clarence Thomas, black Republican who believes in pulling yourself by your bootstraps, rather than, to me, understanding the systemic racism that African Americans face in this country and other minorities. He doesn't get it, neither does Clarence.
Right.
And that's why they're Republicans.
Yeah. Senator, besides the laughter in the audience, which quite evident at the ABC News or the ABC View audience, you've always, your reputation in Washington is to be a gentleman. How do you respond to Joy Behar? What are you going to say to her? And you're going to exact an apology of her? You're going to tell her, ask her what she knows about being a African-American Republican? What are you going to do?
Well, listen, the last person that should give advice on how to be a black man in America is a white lady who happens to wear a black face, and she somehow finds that to be okay. I find her comments to be offensive and dangerous, but not just dangerous because they're pointing the barrels at me. What they're actually trying to do is tell every single young person in this country that if you step out of line, if you think for yourself, there will be consequences. And I will reject that notion on The View, and I will stand up for young people today who want to think for themselves. We don't want to indoctrinate our kids. We want to educate our kids that all things are possible in the land of opportunity. America is not the land of oppression. My life proves that their lies are just that, basic lies.
Would you go so far as to say her comments are racist, telling you that you don't know what it means to be a black man, essentially, that you don't understand racism? Is her comment racist?
Well, I'm not sure I would answer that question as saying, yes, it's racist. What I can say is she's out of touch with reality, number one. Number two, I can tell you that I find her comments to be offensive and dangerous in what it says to others. And number three, I don't expect much more from Joy. I expect her to be who she's always been. And when the left and the radical left progressives are on defense, they say the most remarkable, dangerous, and toxic things. It's unfortunate that in 2023, the one thing these progressives do not want an African American to be, a conservative.
Well, it'll be interesting to see whether she apologizes to you, whether executive producer apologizes to you, and whether ABC apologizes to you, because they are playing the race card with you, sir. South Carolina Senator and candidate for what?
Greta, the one thing I would say is you do hit the nail on the head there. ABC, the View, and these ladies, if it were reversed, if someone else said exactly what they said about a black Democrat, they would be off the air. So that there is a double standard that we should continue to expose in the national media, where the current narrative is, as long as you agree with us as progressives, you can be black. That is poisonous, it is toxic, it is corrosive, and it has to be challenged.
South Carolina Senator and candidate for President Tim Scott. Thank you, sir.